Broadcasting from Charlotte, North Carolina, the Queen City, this is On the Air with Deplorable Pride. Tune in at ontheairwithdeplorablepride.org every Wednesday, a conservative LGBT talk show. We are your voice. Here's your host, Brian Talbert and Chris O'Shea.
And welcome back to another episode of On the Air with Deplorable Pride. Today is Wednesday, September the 12th, 2018. I'm Chris O'Shea here with Brian Talbert. Brian, what's going on this week?
Not much. I'm just getting ready for a hurricane. How are you?
I am excited for the storm. I've been here for 4 years in North Carolina, and I don't know, this is supposed to be the big one, huh?
Yeah, I'm sure if you've heard some stories about Hugo. So it
was 1989, was it?
Yeah, in September also of 89, but everyone was evacuated to Charlotte. They were told to come here, and that would be a safe location. And when it came through Charlotte, it was still a Category 1 hurricane. I think Charlotte lost 80,000 trees or something like that. I just heard them say it this morning. It definitely changed the canopy of our city. So a lot of people have, that remember Hugo still have a little uneasy feeling about this hurricane coming in. So we're hoping it goes a little north of Wilmington, and that way it won't hit us as bad. But they're predicting like up to 20 inches of rain here. There's several feet of rain. So after a summer of rain, that's going to be devastating for a lot of areas here. So just getting prepared for that.
Well, we can just cross our fingers and hope that it doesn't hit us too bad. Maybe it'll stay out at sea. I'm not a meteorologist, so I don't know how all that weather stuff works, but we can hope for the best.
The worst thing is the power outages that, I do remember. That's the one thing I hated the most was during Hugo was 14 days without power. And
ouch.
That, it was ouch. People, everything is horrible. People, it's, and then after, right after that, you lose water. And so it's pretty miserable back then. So I'm not looking forward to reliving any of those days.
Yeah.
But we ate good because everybody had to cook everything in their freezers. So we had a lot of neighborhood block grill outs. And we had no choice, but we had to eat it, cook it. But that's the only positive light out of it. Today we got a pretty good show. We've got Michele Nix with the North Carolina GOP.
I'm excited for this. Our first interview, and that's a pretty awesome first guest, I think. So I'm looking forward to that. She's the vice chair of the North Carolina Republican Party, and she's going to give us some advice on how to get involved with the midterms, and she's going to give us a little bio of herself, how she got started and everything. So it's going to be a pretty good interview, and that'll be later on. And before we get to that, I think we should recap over the last week. We had a couple of noteworthy events. The big one, of course, was the Winston-Salem rally.
Yes.
And this was our first time going to Winston-Salem to do one of our roadside rallies. And I think going into it, neither of us really expected that much, but I don't know about you. I was pretty happy with the turnout.
Yeah, I was too. And I was actually pretty shocked at this, the people that supported us that were out there. Winston-Salem being a liberal city, just like most all major cities are, I was expecting a lot of backlash, but it was like overwhelming people that supported. We had a couple of people that come by and, typical F Trump. And we had one lady, one group of people in a car that made it their mission to come back 4 different times to tell us, So we got a little bit of fun at the stoplight with them. As usual, they couldn't deny facts, and so they'd rather insult and have a feeling that they are the ones. It was a pretty successful rally throughout the whole day, and at the end, we got to meet Winston-Salem Police Department, City Police. Someone called into the police department and said that we were causing a disturbance. So, it kind of backfired on those people because the cops got there and they were like, we all started talking and everything. It turned, the cops were, they were just coming out to handle a complaint that was made. You can't, I'll fault them for that.
Yeah.
But, they made it, we were packing up anyway. Basically, we were getting ready to wind it down because we'd been out there for several hours. But the police made it a point to let us know that they were not running us off, and they were just actually coming, to handle investigative complaint, but that they were not running us off or anything. And I thought that was kind of nice of them to let them know that we didn't have to leave. They were letting us know we didn't have to. But like I said, it was a great event, great interaction with the people. Like I said, it's the first time, up in that area. That is the northern part of the city. Of the state, and that tends to be a little bit more liberal as well. But
these roadside rallies are really a good barometer, a good gauge of support or lack of support, if that's the case. But in this case, the majority of the responses that we got from passing vehicles, and this was at a busy four-way intersection by a shopping mall. And the majority of the response was all thumbs up and people honking their horns and cheering and stuff.
Every other rally we've had, just like this one, we had people stop by, want to take pictures with us, talk to us and stuff. People that weren't a part of the rally, but just wanted to stop and show their support that way. This was actually a little special. We got to meet our friend Vicky, who has been a supporter of Deplorable Pride and Care Less for Trump since the beginning. So she was out there. It was great to finally meet her, actually get a face to the name. And and she showed up with Krispy Kreme. And looking back at our videos of that day, you were just a little excited about a Krispy Kreme donut.
Well, I've been trying this, they call it a slow carb diet, where you're supposed to basically cut out all sugars and carbs and stuff, and then just go crazy for one day during the week to spike your insulin levels, whatever it is. I don't know the science behind it, but Tim Ferriss, the 4-Hour Work Week, 4-Hour Body, definitely you should check him out if you haven't read any of his stuff. But I try to eat healthy, but donuts are a weakness. And
is that your first Krispy Kreme?
Wasn't my first, but I didn't know that Winston-Salem was actually the home of Krispy Kreme. Yeah. So these were fresh. They were hot when she brought them to us. So it was really cool to have fresh Krispy Kremes, not the stuff you get at the grocery store or gas station. Fresh Krispy Kreme in the home of Krispy Kreme. Yeah. So I was excited. I had, I think, 2 donuts there, and I will admit on this podcast that I had at least 2 more that day. So, it was a good cheat day for me.
Yeah. And it was great to on another person that was there. It was great meeting Heather. She's been a supporter of Care Less for Trump and Deplorable Pride also for a while. And she was the reason we actually held the rally up in Winston-Salem, because we had mentioned other people during our podcast that if you are interested in us helping you with a roadside rally or setting up something up in your area, Heather was one of those ones that reached out after hearing that. So, that puts the plan into action. We show how people contact us. We get involved. We get the plan into action, get a roadside rally set up, and have a good time. So, this is a perfect example of what we can do in your area. If you have any suggestions and you want us to come and help you get it started, we'd be more than happy. Just contact either Care Less for Trump or deplorablepride.org, and we'll be more than happy to help you.
Yep, and like I promised her, we would get some people that we would bring to help get things started, but that there would undoubtedly be people who would show up who were in that area, who would see us or would hear about us on Facebook and be able to attend something locally for them. And now we've got a good list of people who are going to come out to future events that she'll host. So that's how it all works. That's the process. It's really easy. It doesn't. It's not an expensive investment to get started. You don't need to have an army of supporters. You start doing this and it snowballs. So we're looking forward to seeing how Heather does with these events and helping her continue to succeed in Winston-Salem.
Definitely will look forward to going back and doing another one up there.
Now, this upcoming Saturday, we have a roadside rally in Indian Trail planned, but with the storm headed our way towards the end of this week, that's really up in the air. We're going to have to play that one by ear. The National Day of Action that the Republican Party had planned for that Saturday, which we were going to participate in after our roadside rally, has been postponed. I believe it's postponed till the following weekend, tentatively, but that may change depending on what happens over the next few days. So stay tuned. If you're listening outside of the southeastern United States, where you're not going to be affected by the upcoming storm, definitely keep an eye on your local Republican Party's website and get involved if they're doing something this weekend. Even if they're not doing a national day of action, see if you can reach out to someone in your local Republican Party to get set up for a door knocking, phone banking, voter registration, or something, so that you can get involved and we can guarantee a red wave in November, because that's really the big focus for right now and for the next several weeks, is making sure that we get Republicans to the polls in November to win.
That's one thing Michele Nix, and when we speak with her a little later, she's going to go over some ways for people to get involved for the upcoming midterms and the 2020 election. So she'll have some good advice on exactly how to do that as well.
So what else is going on in the world of social media, politics, Trump, the Judge Kavanaugh hearings, all that stuff? What's your take on the current state of affairs?
Well, right now it's this op-ed that is causing a lot of the stir, and Bob Woodward's book. I find it funny that we're all sitting around here and it's manufactured crisis. We've got I mean, I don't know what we'd do if we actually got somebody to write a book and they had sources they could verify and they actually had people that stood by what the claims were. But just like the Wolf book, Fire and Fury, it turned out to be a fraud, just like Omarosa's book, Unhinged, turned out to be a fraud. And just like Bob Woodward's book, I don't even know what it's called, Fear. His book, Fear, is going to be proven the exact same. You know, I honestly believe this op-ed was written by someone inside the New York Times. What better? It's like Trump said, you know, what did they report before Trump? Because that's all they report about now. And we talk about the historic low unemployment. Mm-hmm. You look at the opportunities that Donald Trump's presidency has created for people to write books that are complete fiction. I mean, we give an opportunity to places like the New York Times to actually spread lies instead of actually having to report the news. The economy is so great that they can survive just by doing that, you know. But, you know, the lies and stuff that's that people are saying in order to try to bring down this president or shed a bad light on him is just it's gotten out of hand and ridiculous. This anonymous sourcing is, you know, it's does no good for, you know, credible journalism.
Yeah, maybe I've got an idea of something that we can do here and our listeners can do across the country. Maybe we can go to the different bookstores, since I think they still exist. Barnes and Noble. I don't know if Borders is still around, or Books A Million. We can take all these books and help the bookstore out by moving them from the nonfiction to the fiction section.
That is a great idea. And
to a public service.
I will definitely be up for that.
But yeah, anonymous sources should be your number one clue that it's manufactured. It's just to get a reaction from people. And as they know that the hatred of Trump will sell to the liberals and the Trump haters. So,
I mean, these books actually do nothing. I mean, it's the only people that are going to buy into it and believe it are the people who already hate Trump. People who are not going to buy into it are people who support the president. I mean, it's not like these books are going to.
They're not going to sway public opinion.
There's nothing in them that's, you know, groundbreaking or anything that, you know, and if you can't verify your source, then nobody will stand by their claims, just like in the book Fear. General Mattis was supposedly quoted as saying that Donald Trump had the mentality of a fifth or sixth grader. And Mattis came out and said that was not true. He never said that. He's willing to take a polygraph to that. General Kelly also was supposedly called the president an idiot. John Kelly's come out and said he's willing to take a polygraph test to say that he did not say that as well. So, I mean, all these claims, and they're being disputed by the very people that supposedly said it. You know, the vice president is that op-ed was written trying to make it look. I think it was penned to try to make it look like certain people, and I think it was penned to make it look like it was the vice president. I'm not really sure what word or phrase was used in that op-ed, but it was one that Pence had used, and I think that was strategically put in there to make it look like the vice president is even going against our own president. You know,
he's agreed to take a polygraph.
Oh yeah, he said he
would
without a doubt take a polygraph test. You know, trust me, Mike Pence did not defend the president through everything else in the past to get to this to try to sabotage him. This is a scam. You know, just like with the Democrats pulling in Barack Obama out of his slumber, you know, his filth, and pulling him in here to get him out here to speak. That shows their fear. That shows that the one people that are not as confident of a blue wave coming, and that is the Democrats, because there's no other reason why they would pull Barack Obama back into it.
Well, all they've got is Barack Obama, because otherwise, look at who's leading the way for their party. It's Ocasio-Cortez, the crazy-eyed socialist from New York, Maxine Waters, the very low IQ congresswoman from California, Nancy Pelosi, who can barely
the crypt keeper.
Exactly. So they're a party without direction. They're a party without leadership. So they have to bring Barack Obama back into the mix.
You know, I find it funny. You know, I don't know if you saw that speech he made the other day where he tried to take credit for the economy.
He said it was never possible.
Yeah, well, true. But the entire 8 years of his presidency, he did nothing but blame the bad economy that we were experiencing under him and the slow recovery. He did nothing but blame President Bush for all of his problems. And then when he can't get anything done in 8 years, and then when Trump gets in there, after saying that he would never do it, now Barack Obama is trying to take credit for this economy. It was Barack Obama that said that our economy, you know, that Trump will collapse the economy and everything. And that, you know, I find it's just funny that he's trying to take some credit for something that he says is not even that great.
Well, we can let them do their thing. We're going to focus on actually getting things done, the Republican Party, Donald Trump, and making sure this red wave happens in November. So I think that this is a good time to bring in our very first guest to our On the Air with the Portable Pride podcast. It's a great honor and a privilege to introduce Michele Nix, the vice chair of the NCGOP. With us today, we've got Michele Nix. She is the vice chair of the NCGOP, and right now, obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on with the hurricane, so thank you very much for taking the time right now, Michele, to join us with On the Air with the Portable Pride.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I always enjoy following you and Brian Talbert on your roadside rallies, and have been following Brian's story since he was not allowed to participate in the Pride Parade in Charlotte a few years back.
It is an interesting way that Brian got started with the whole political thing, but
yeah,
he's here, and I think he's a force to be reckoned with. We're glad to have him on the team.
I would echo that sentiment. Yes, he is a force to be reckoned with.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate that.
Well, Michele, let's start things off. You're number one, our first guest on the podcast, so congratulations on that. You're also the vice chair of the North Carolina GOP. How did you get here? How did you get started in politics?
I got started in politics because back in 2007, I got tired of yelling at my television set and not getting any response. So from there, I decided to seek out and join my local Republican Party. And lo and behold, when you turn up for an event, what happens is they draft you because the old adage is, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. And I was hot and ready to go. So when I showed up at my local county Republican Party meeting, they drafted me to be sitting on the executive committee. And then from there, I held the secretary position, treasurer, vice chairman, and then county chairman position. And then back at that time, 2008 to 2012, Lenoir County sat within 3 congressional districts. We were in Congressional District 1, which is G.K. Butterfield. We were in Congressional District 3, which was Walter Jones, and Congressional District 7, which at that time was Mike McIntyre. So I was very active in not only my local party, but also the districts, the 3 districts as well. And then, come 2012, when we thought Mitt Romney was going to win the presidential election and he didn't, things just kind of escalated from there.
So how long have you been in the position of vice chair of the North Carolina GOP?
I've been in the position of vice chairman of the state Republican Party since June of 2015. After, holding the position for 3 years on the county chairman, I decided I had a lot more to give to the party. And, I had a lot of friends across the state. I also participated in the Eastern North Carolina Tea Party. I was also a member of the Republican Liberty Caucus. And if you all remember, we used to do rallies on bridges and call for the impeachment of Obama, and I participated in those roadside rallies or bridge rallies too. So come to June of 2015, I was elected to be the state party vice chairman, and I've held the position ever since. This is my second term, and the next term will be in June of 2019 for elections.
Are you the first female to hold this position?
No, no. There's been several other females before me, and there's been one or two other females that have actually held the position of state party chairman as well.
Yeah, because I know, I remember the days of North Carolina with Jesse Helms and everything. And it's North Carolina has progressed a lot in the Republican Party here. And I honestly did not know that you were like the third female there. I thought you were the first. It's great to see that North Carolina is, like that we elect women to high positions.
I think I'm the first loud, proud, bold, bright, red Republican female to hold the position. Now, I know the other females were proud to hold the position as well, but I don't believe that they have, that they were as active in outside political activities as I've been.
I had a question. You are originally from New York and moved down to North Carolina. I'm just curious as to have you faced any opposition from some of the ones down here in North Carolina, and how you may have overcome that for being from up north?
And I'm from upstate New York, and when people find out that I'm from New York, they usually give me a sideways look, and I said, look, I'm one of them upstate New Yorkers, which means that I'm just a northern redneck. So when I moved south, I'm a southern redneck now. So the only difference is my accent. Upstate New York, we believe in a lot of the constitutional principles that our country was founded upon. Individual liberty, lower taxes, less government. So I've been here for more than 20 years, and I'm married to a native. So, I consider myself to be one of them. If someone calls me a Yankee, I like to correct them and say, no, I'm not a Yankee. I'm a damn Yankee, because I came and I never left.
But if you've been here for 20 years, you are definitely a North Carolinian now.
Yes, I am. I call, this is my home. My children were brought up here. My grandchildren live here. So, I've got a family. We've got business. We're entrenched in North Carolina.
It's great. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
So obviously right now the big focus is on November 6th. That's the big election, the midterm.
Yes.
A lot of people are calling it Trump's first re-election, because this is basically a referendum. People will either vote for the Make America Great Again agenda to continue, or they're going to put the brakes on and bring it to a screeching halt with impeachment and all that good stuff. From your position, what do you think of the key things that Republicans in North Carolina need to focus on? And it can be beyond North Carolina as well. And how can people get involved and, make sure the red wave happens?
Well, I think of the few things that we need to really concentrate on is turning out the vote. We've got to make sure that we're getting our people to the polls. If Republicans are not getting their people to the polls, then we're going to we're going to have some issues. But I think a lot of the things that we are focusing on can be a distraction. What we really need to be focusing on are our judicial court races. In the state of North Carolina, we have a North Carolina Supreme Court Associate Justice by the name of Justice Barbara Jackson, who needs our help to get reelected. Now, she has two opponents on the ballot. One is Anita Earls. And the other one, is a pseudo Republican. He changed his registration just prior to filing so that he could be what they call the spoiler in the race to pull votes away from Barbara Jackson. Barbara really has two opponents now. She has Antifa Earls, and she also has, the other Republican spoiler. So if you're having a hard time remembering the name of Barbara Jackson. What I'm telling people is vote for the woman in the North Carolina Supreme Court race whose name is not Antifa Earls. I mean, that's really what, we need to focus on. And people say to me, well, why would you call her Antifa? Well, because that's how she acts and that's how she supports. And those are the things that she's been active in. She's already broken a lot of judicial canons by saying how she would rule if she had, if she wins this race. She's already come out and say how she would rule on a few of these cases. And that's just inappropriate, because when you're a justice, you're supposed to not have an opinion on things that are out there right now in the public eye.
And we definitely agree with you on the Antifa issue. We face our own Antifa problem here in Charlotte, and we're since they hijacked the LGBT community, it's my mission to stand against them, and I definitely support candidates that are going to work to stop these type of domestic terrorists. I'm looking for somebody who's going to actually label them that one day.
Yeah, and then we also have the appellate court races that we have to be concerned with as well. With the appellate court races, we have 3, and we've got District Court Judge Jefferson Griffin, we have Andrew Heath, and then there's Chuck Kitchen. So those are 3 seats that are very important as well, because if we lose those seats, that'll also tip the balance on the North Carolina Appellate Court. And, Democrats have a hard time beating us at the ballot box. And if they do, win with these court races, if they can't beat us at the ballot box, what they're doing is they're taking us to court and they're hanging us up in the court system with these activist judiciary, and they're ruling against the Republican legislature. So it's very important for us to keep a majority on the appellate court and to keep Justice Barbara Jackson in the seat she's in.
Can you find a list of the candidates that we should be supporting on the North Carolina GOP website?
Yes, it is nc.gop is our website. And then, we're also looking at, some really tough races across the state of North Carolina, making sure we keep our supermajority. The supermajority is what allows us to override Governor Cooper's vetoes. When we send up and pass a good piece of legislation, for example, the Farm Bill, which protects our farmers and our farm families from nuisance lawsuits, we've got $245 billion in Eastern Carolina who are hog farmers, these nuisance suits. So in the Farm Bill, they put some parameters and sent it to Governor Cooper. Governor Cooper vetoed it. He vetoed that. He vetoed protecting our farmers. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Okay. So the bill had to go back to the legislature, and that's important. If the legislature doesn't have enough votes, they cannot override Governor Cooper. So it's important for us to keep our majorities in the North Carolina House and Senate.
So you've been involved in the political scene a lot longer than Brian or I have. How do we get Republicans to the polls? What's the trigger? What's the hot button that we can get them out of their houses to the polls to vote, either during early voting or on election day? What's the main thing that we should be focusing on to make that happen?
Phone calls, knocking on doors, talking to your neighbors. I have a 3-foot rule. My 3-foot rule is if you're within 3 feet of me, you're going to hear about why you should be voting and why you should be voting for Republicans. And look at all the great things that we've got going on here in the state of North Carolina. I think we need to tell our story, and we need to make sure that people are understanding and hearing it. Podcasts such as this are fantastic because it gives people an opportunity to hear a wider, your reach is nothing can beat that. You can't beat a door knock and you cannot beat a phone call, because when you're actually talking to people and you're engaging them one-on-one, that says so much more for what Republicans are all about than just, you've got a Democrat coming and say, oh, you need to vote because we hate Republicans. Is that their message? We've got a much better message, and we need to be better at communicating that message to get our voting base out. I
wanted to ask you a question. The redistricting has been in the news lately, and from what I understand, they're not going to make them redraw the map until after this election. Could you explain to us and the listeners what exactly is going to happen now?
What'll happen now is we're going to keep the same congressional districts we do have, and then come 2020. they're going to make us redraw districts again, and then we go through a census, and then the districts will need to be drawn again for the 2022 maps. So it's all because the Democrats are trying to get a majority of the congressional seats in North Carolina. That's the reason they're doing it. And you have an activist judiciary who's ruling against North Carolina and saying that our congressional districts are gerrymandered. Well, they didn't have a problem when Democrats were gerrymandering the districts. Look at North Carolina. Look at the congressional district 12. You can't tell me that's not gerrymandered. Yeah.
I mean, that was I knew if anything was racially motivated, it was that district.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't racially motivate when you're using a computer to help you pick and draw your lines.
I mean, it just went straight up from Charlotte to Greensboro, correct?
Yes. And, and that's another thing, when they lose an argument, they fall back on the tried and true and the old things that they've done before, which is number one, call racism, call sexism, call it, whatever they want. They're just trying to segment people, saying that, you're a bigot. Because when they can't win an argument with logic, they've got to fall back on emotion.
What do you see as far as the future for the GOP in North Carolina? Some upcoming things on how we, I know the 2020 convention's coming up in Charlotte, and what do you see in the future for the North Carolina GOP?
Well, for the North Carolina Republican Party, I see us continuing to grow. Our message is reaching, and most people are agreeing with us, and I see our numbers are continuing to grow while the Democrats continue to diminish. And as long as the Democrats continue to act the way they are and promoting the policies they have been, such as what we've all witnessed on TV with Justice Kavanaugh being confirmed, and even at, with President Trump when he holds rallies, how the people were acting there and how the news media acts. As long as these, leftists keep doing the things they're doing, Republicans are going to continue to win races. Right. But for the state of the party in North Carolina, I think the major key for us is to keep people engaged and to let them know that if they want to be a delegate or if they want to participate with the RNC, the best thing to do is to contact your local party and get involved with your local party, or volunteer for a candidate, help a candidate knock on a door, help a candidate make phone calls. And the biggest of all that we need people to do is we need people to help bring other people to the polls to vote our candidates. So if you're looking to get involved, that's the best way to do that, is to bring someone to the poll or go to a Republican Party county meeting and go to a district meeting or even write a check if you can to support a candidate.
Now, as far as growing the party, both here in North Carolina and beyond, because we do have a lot of listeners across the country, one of the topics, of course, that especially close to this podcast is reaching out to like the LGBT community and growing support among LGBT conservatives, Republicans, as well as other minorities, Blacks, Hispanics, and other groups who typically haven't been associated with the Republican Party. What sort of ideas do you have as far as how we can accomplish that mission? Do you have any ideas as far as building that bridge?
I think, Chris, and that's a valid point. I agree that we do need to build the party. We need to build bridges, and we've taken steps to do that. We had an event that was hosted by Wake Turn, which is Triangle Urban Republican Networking, and they hosted an LGBT event at our North Carolina Republican Party headquarters. Now, it wasn't put on by the Republican Party, but I participated in the event. And look, for me, as long as, I don't care what your gender is or what your identity is. I don't mind I don't care what color you are. Well, I'm going to support all Republicans who believe in lower taxes, less government, and individual liberty, regardless of race, religion, creed. We've all got to work together to promote what our constitutional republic is all about. We've got Republicans who participate in our party events, and we're just looking at them as Republicans. We're not looking to segment them into any special group. So I think the best way for us is to welcome people in, is just to let them know what our Republican Party stands for. And if you want to have your own, separate group, that's fine, as long as you are, continuing to uphold the ideals of what a Republican really is.
I wanted to go back to volunteering. I have heard that the National Day of Action is that canceled throughout the entire state of North Carolina?
It is because we're under a state of emergency right now.
Do you know of a date yet that it's been changed to?
I'm sorry, I don't know of one yet. No, I know it should be coming up though. We've got to get through this natural disaster that we're facing, with Hurricane Florence. And there's a few other, tropical depressions that are right behind this one. So, we've got to really be careful and let's get through this, and then we can refocus on what our elections are and helping candidates.
Okay. Because we had planned, we have a roadside rally that we had planned for Saturday. And we were going to volunteer afterwards for the National Day of Action. And we just wanted to know, so we could let the listeners know that people throughout North Carolina. But,
and I think, Brian, if that and the National Day of Action, as far as I know, it has been canceled. However, if you group would still like to do something, I would say volunteering at a natural disaster recovery efforts might help in the state of North Carolina. Maybe we can show them that Republicans are out to help our fellow Republicans, our fellow man, regardless of what your political affiliation is at this time. We have to all work together to get through this disaster that's going to hit our state.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, very good idea.
Well, maybe work at a food bank or something, or, work at a site to hand out waters, or, call the Red Cross and volunteer and see what we can do.
Sounds great. Great advice. Well, Michele, I want to thank you for joining us today and giving us some great advice. And hopefully we can have you back on in the future. And
sure.
Definitely looking forward to working in the Republican Party with people like you. You give me hope here in North Carolina. And it's different types of people coming together for the greater cause. And
it sure is. And listen, I want to thank the two of you for what you've done. And I know you've taken a lot of hits on behalf of the Republican Party in supporting our president. And I really appreciate what you are doing out there, and the attention and the knowledge that you're gaining and what you're bringing here to our state and to the Republican Party. So I thank you. And anytime I can do anything to help you or what your cause is, please reach out. It's been my pleasure to talk to the both of you.
Thank you so much, Michele.
Well, Michele, stay safe with the storm. I know you're driving right now. Drive safe, stay safe, and thank you again.
Thank you all. All right, y'all have a great day.
You too.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. There we have it, our first interview with On the Air with Political Pride with Michele Nix. That was some great advice. It's
a great honor to talk to her. I mean, I know that she's been following us on social media.
She's been a great supporter. She's
very supportive.
I do believe she's the future of our Republican Party here in North Carolina.
People like her, definitely. We need more like that.
So
I guess we're going to wrap things up for this show. We're going to be getting ready for the storm. If you are in North, South Carolina, Virginia, anywhere that's going to be affected by the storm, we hope that you're doing the same, taking the necessary precautions.
Remember, when you evacuate, if you're living on the coast and you've been ordered to mandatory evacuate, remember to take your pets with you. They will not survive. So that's very, very
PSA,
important.
a public service announcement.
And, take the storm serious. This is the largest storm to hit North Carolina since 1954, Hurricane Hazel, and that changed the landscape of our state. And they're predicting that there's some barrier islands that may actually disappear. So they're predicting that it may change the coastline of North Carolina. So that's a major storm that has the capability of doing that. So take this storm serious. A lot of people in North Carolina don't die from the hurricane. They die from the storm surge. They die from the flooding. That's where we get the majority of our damage. That's where we get the majority of our death toll. And that's from past hurricanes. But turn around, don't drown is a very important rule. You cannot drive through water. Any amount of water can sweep you away and kill you. So those are important things to remember. And everyone, I pray for our state and everyone to stay safe. And we'll get through this. North Carolina's we've been through worse, and we'll get through this one. We're tough people. If it wasn't for North Carolinians, we'd all be speaking British.
And go ahead and download all the past episodes of On the Air with the Political Pride if you haven't already. It'll give you something good to listen to if the power does go out and you can't watch TV or browse the web, you can at least listen to the past episodes of On the Air with Deplorable Pride on your smartphone. And we'll be back next week. We'll see what happens in the meantime. Hopefully things turn out to be a lot less drastic than they're predicted to be. But either way, we're going to be back here, same time, same place, Wednesdays, on the air with deplorablepride.org. You can find us on Facebook, On the Air with Deplorable Pride, or actually just search for deplorablepride.org on Facebook. You can find Carolinas for Trump on Facebook as well. And if you need to get in touch with us, if you have an idea, a suggestion, a comment, a question, that's contactdeplorablepride@gmail.com is the best way to reach us. And any last words, Brian?
Just if you have any suggestions for future guests that we can have on our show, please let us know that. We'll get in touch with them. And if you'd like to be a guest on our show and have something to contribute, send us an email, let us know. Definitely would consider. And that's about all for this week. And stay safe. And I'm Brian.
Stay safe. Stay dry.
And free the weed.
Free the weed.
And that will get you through a hurricane. It is a major necessity for the supplies kit.
Hurricane survival kit.
Hurricane survival kit.
And don't forget your lighter.
Don't forget the lighter.
Otherwise, you'd be lighting cigarettes with a candle.
Well, yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. This is Chris O'Shea with Carolinas for Trump.
And Brian Talbert with Deplorable Pride.
Thanking you once again for tuning in to On the Air with Deplorable Pride.